Another question is, how can a structural engineer affect the cost of a build project?
Um, there's a couple of different ways, I think. We've just done one at a project in Chalfont where it's quite a large 5,000 square foot new build project. And we were looking at whether a steel frame project would be better, or a traditional or a concrete frame project.
Mhm.
But due to the span of due to the open plan requirements by the client, it
Mhm.
lended itself to more of a steel frame project, which the cost of the steel is a bit more expensive in comparison to a, say, traditional build,
Mhm.
but you end up constructing the project far quicker. So
Yes.
there are different variables to each of the different methods. Concrete structures are quite good again for large open spans, but concrete is very heavy. It is very expensive,
Takes a while
and
to cure.
yes, so there's different variables for each. So you do have to, during the design stage, have a good amount of time debating that, and figuring out which is the best way forward for whatever type of project. If it's an extension, it sort of lends itself generally to a traditional build.
Yeah. Well, interestingly as well, actually considering those points, and a lot of people don't. I mean, far too many people don't understand what a good structural engineer looks like. Is you have just talked about and debated through different structural elements, right? Different
Yeah,
options. And you saved one of my clients £70,000 once by changing it, by asking that question. Can it be done in timber? So this original designer had all of this steel work, granted a little few compromise in terms of kind of layout, but not too much. You created something that we could do in timber. Now, answering that question or actually going through that thought process is completely unheard of, because people are in a race to the bottom where they engage a structural engineer for 50 quid a beam. But we know, or you and I know, that they'll calculate the biggest span possible and the beam and put loads of safety factors in it. So it could be 30, 40, 50, 100% over designed in terms of height, depth, thickness, which increases the cost of the beam. And then they'll just use that same size beam for the little opening.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things I would say is actually the standards have changed in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we're using what we call Eurocode,
Mm-hmm.
whereas a lot of the older designers are still sort of stuck with the British standards,
Right.
and there is a difference between how you calculate things.
Right.
And I think that was one of the elements when I look back on a project like what we did, was you could see that the designer was sort of gearing towards that, whereas there is a lot more safety factors, but safety is the most important thing as a structural engineer.
Mm.
But you have to appreciate that there are ways that you can not compromise the safety, but understand the complexity of the project and make it suit.
Yeah.
On
You're not talking just about the safety of the building standing up. You've also, having gone through the position of debating structure, you're also thinking about how do you install it. I've
Absolutely.
had beams on great big houses before, or schools, or whatever, new build houses, like you said, where they're too big to lift into place.
Mm.
There is a fundamental safety provision there that you need to design it in such a way that people aren't going to kill themselves, right?
Absolutely. I mean, buildability is
Mm.
key to working with all these great projects.
Yeah.
Um, I remember working on a project where uh, we came in and there was a initial steel being proposed, but very practically it didn't fit through the corridor through the door, right? So like you could see that was the issue straight away,
Yeah.
and we obviously chose to split the beam in half, right, and put a connection detail in there. Otherwise, you weren't going to get that beam in.
No.